Dad comes home, she comes home, kids come home from school. Someone's got practice for band, someone's got practice for baseball, and then it's back to bed and it's back to repeating the next day. So where in the midst of that day is like the single time when you can get everybody together, hopefully, at least some days out of the week, to be in a room and be present to each other and be enjoying something together. That's what a family dinner is.
All those things coming together and people just sort of deciding, well, that's how it is, which is an attitude all too often taken in all too many different ways in our society. Well, that's how it is.
Wouldn't it be better to force ourselves to simplified life by saying, okay, well, I'm going to prioritize this thing that slows everything down and brings us together, you know? What are we drinking tonight, Ethan?
Well, I have drunk it because I drank the last of it, but this was something my father-in-law gave me. It's called the Bogle Family Vineyards. It's a California Cabernet.
Okay.
I know how you feel about most California wines. It's also kind of how I feel about most California wines, particularly after having a good Italian and good German wines. But it's what I had. And they got pheasants on the label. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's a nice label. You know,
it's a very,
good looking
very
bottle,
classy.
good looking label.
There are. I will say this: there are a lot of California wines that have very, very classy labels.
Yeah, I should clarify. My stance on California wines, I guess, predominantly flows from my mom. Somebody I know or that she knows or both. California wines can give them headaches and such. And just
Probably
something
because of the additives and stuff that they put in it.
that or fertilizers or I'm not entirely sure. So what I've kind of done is just adopted that and said I'm just going to buy international. Not because I necessarily care about the headaches and such, but I don't know. It's also an aesthetic thing, I think, to just buy international.
I've also noticed that like, California wines tend to make me more sleepy than international wines. I don't know why. They just make me sleepy.
That's curious.
Even an international wine with a higher alcohol content.
Yeah, so what else is different about it?
Makes
Maybe
me
different
sleepier than straight whiskey. Or straight gin.
sub-varieties of grapes, the way they're grown. Yeah, that's curious.
Yeah.
So
Something in it. I don't know. So if I randomly pass out, I blame the wine.
okay. As you know, with California wines, even with my own way of going about it, I make an exception for the Apothec Red, which I will promote to anybody.
That is good.
So
That is good.
that is delish.
Even though it's not technically one wine, it's just... I like how we can just... we can mix wines together and call it a new thing. We're taking 4 other wines and we made them into a new wine. It's a red blend. Everyone.
People do blends all the time, but it's just delicious. It's real good.
Oh, I know. That's just... I find it funny. That's like, wow, that's like the least amount of effort put into making a new wine. We're just going to bring these 4 things that already exist. Rather than, take the process all the way back to the grape.
There's still a lot that goes into it, depending on how you got to source it properly. And,
I'm sure
and
there
everything.
is.
So,
yeah, I just like making fun of California.
There's much to make fun of. So, it's one state that you and I will never move to. So, if you had to pick, where would you move, California or New York? I know those are gosh awful choices. It's like one is 49 and one is 50, or just both are 50. But
my instinct is actually New York, upstate.
It might be easier to hide from
because
the bad politics.
That's a very, very short drive to New Hampshire, which has excellent hunting, I'm told. It's great during duck season and during deer season and during goose season. Really good hunting land. And also, just from what I've seen, New Hampshire is probably one of the prettiest states we have during the fall.
Yeah, New Hampshire, Vermont, that would be really nice. So
yeah, I would say New York because New York has an upstate that at least will allow me to stay away from the primarily centralized cesspit that is New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I stay in the upstate of New York, then I have a higher likelihood of retaining my reason and my sanity. California, it's really hard to get away from unless you move closer to the eastern border.
Yeah, I could go either way. I could move to, yeah, upstate New York or Western New York and root for the Buffalo Bills if I had to pick an AFC team to root for. Or I could move to Northern California just because I'd be close enough to, like, Northeastern California. Because I'd be close enough to the part of Oregon where a couple census folks got lost for like 4 days at one point in the brush. So I'd be in a place where I could hide.
That would be good weather.
So,
Well, not great weather, but it would be a good climate at least.
yeah.
Pretty good landscape. I don't know. I think what that ultimately does come down to is because everything else is crap, I'm just going to go with the landscape. Like, I can get to some really, really pretty places in upstate New York.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And retain my sanity. But in order to retain my sanity in California, I feel like I just have to move out and live in the middle of the desert. I don't really want to do that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Neither are great options, but we'd be making the best of it. So,
Yeah.
Speaking of making the best of it, for my own drink of this evening, I have something from the California of the North, also known as Minnesota, my home state, my beloved home state, called Prost Malone. So, this is a craft brew up here from Head Flyer in Minneapolis, and it is a fest beer. And I'm getting to enjoy it in a beautiful mug that I got from Ethan on the occasion of his wedding. So,
Yeah, I
good
think
beer.
the first time you
Good
told me about the Prost Malone, I was like, no. Just on the basis of name alone, I'll believe you that it's a good beer, and if you want to bring
Yeah.
some with you the next time you come down and show me how good it is, then okay. But
Can do it. Apparently, it's an annual release. I don't know the details on like how many months out of the year they release it or this time of year. Is it as good as any of the Belgian beers I've had with you? No. Is it as good as Chimay Blue or Saint Benedictus or Dragon's Milk? Tales of Gold? No. But it's just a good beer.
well, I wasn't gonna ask if it was better than Tales of Gold because I know that the answer to that question
That's not
9.5 times out of 10 is going to be no.
Yep.
Because that Tales of Gold is probably the best light beer that you and I have had. It's not even a light beer, but it's...
Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
I cannot stress enough how good New Holland Dragon's Milk Tales of Gold is. It is just...
Sponsor us.
Please, that would be wonderful. We will take sponsorships for microbreweries. Drinking is our thing. We will drink your beer.
Yeah.
But we
do
will
it
also
literally
tell you if it's crap.
podcast.
Just don't ever send me an IPA because I will throw it out my window.
If it's comparable to Bud Light, no. And if it's an IPA, no. Apart from that, we're probably going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I will pour it out in my yard and let the possums have it. That's what I will do if it's an IPA. But
It's a different kind of rolling over they'll be doing.
some good old boy pulls over. Is that possum playing dead? Oh no, he's drunk. He's had a real good time.
Well, you got to be charitable. You got to give. Just
Possums
give of
need
yourself,
their beer
right?
too.
They need to.
Possums need beer. That'll be a shirt one of these days.
That could be a shirt.
That'll be a shirt. Even possums need beer.
Mm-hmm. What we wanted to chat about this evening, folks, was the importance of family dinners. When I was doing research for this, what I originally wanted to call this episode was The Death of the Dinner Table. And I don't know what I will call it, but I'll come up with something. Because one of the questions I initially wanted to ask in my research on this was, basically, is the dinner table, or is the family dinner dead? And long story short, I don't think it is, and actually COVID helped with that. I'm not going to get too deep into the stats on it, or does not need to be the focus of this particular show. Mm-hmm. But we can talk about its importance, because there's still a lot of forces in life that would keep us from doing dinners together as a family. And we'll get into why that's important, but if I think about what the life of a family is, let's just say you're husband and wife, you got 4 kids, the youngest is 8 and the oldest is 17. Let's just come up with that as an example.
That's not a bad spread.
They're all going to school, so they're waking up in the morning. The dad is probably waking up, getting some food, and leaving, while the mom gets the kids all ready, and then they go to school. Who knows what the wife does during the day? Maybe she works, maybe she doesn't. Dad comes home, she comes home, kids come home from school. Someone's got practice for band, someone's got practice for baseball,
Someone's got
someone
football.
someone's got the acting club. And then maybe somewhere in there, you tell your kids to pray and such because, it's good to do prayer, but we're all dead tired at the end of the day. And then it's back to bed and it's back to repeating the next day, right? Mm-hmm. So where in the midst of that day is like the single time when you can get everybody together, hopefully, at least some days out of the week, to be in a room and be present to each other and be enjoying something together. That's what a family dinner is.
Yeah.
So, but beyond just even those distractions in life, and not just distractions because those are good things, all of those things I just said, there's different internet communities, different podcasts, different social medias that you can be on, your wife can be on, and all your kids are probably on, whether they should be or not.
Yeah.
There's things like video games. There's time that they want to spend with friends too. Like, different varying levels of good things here, right? But if the family is the basic unit of society, the building block of society, it needs to spend time together. And so all of those things, while good, can serve to split that apart. And there's a bunch of reasons why that's not good. So
A lot of good things individually that, when too many of them are taken together, wind up having a negative result.
yeah. So I guess I packed a lot into that intro, but anything else you see that is keeping this from being a thing in people's lives, or at least serves as a threat to it?
No, I think you've kind of covered everything, and everybody's already heard of the stereotypical, like, oh, modern life is really busy, and there's always soccer practice, and there's always this and that, and dad's working, and mom's busy doing stuff, and there's social functions, and blah-de-blah-de-blah, and all that, and like we don't have time to have dinner together, and all that, which is nonsense, because of course you have time to have dinner together.
Mm-hmm.
Because a good dinner takes, somebody's got to spend about a half an hour making it, minimum, and then it takes probably about a half an hour to eat it if you're doing it well, minimum. Mm-hmm. I heard somebody say once, I don't remember who, and I don't remember what the context was, but somebody said that that family dinner around the table should take about an hour and a half to eat.
Oh, really?
Which, of course, my first instinct was, well, by that time my food's going to be cold.
Yeah, like that seems like a long time.
It seems like a really long time to be digesting your food. But I don't know. I don't remember anything else other than that. But I remember somewhere there being a rule of thumb that, the family dinner, all the family together, should take about an hour and a half because it's all the family together. But yeah, I don't really see anything other than what you've already talked about, kind of getting in the way of family dinners.
Mm-hmm.
Other than all those things coming together and people just sort of deciding, well, that's how it is, which is an attitude all too often taken in all too many different ways in our society. Just, well, that's how it is.
Which is fueled by a sense of survival, which isn't really based off of survival, but it feels like I'm buzzing around in 1,000 directions, right?
Yeah.
So I just need to get through this day and somehow check all the boxes that I'm supposed to check, right? Mm-hmm. And there's something valid to that. We just tend to have a ton of things going on, but wouldn't it be better to simplify life? Like we've said in how many episodes of this podcast so far?
Oh boy, that would be nice.
So, and wouldn't it be better to force ourselves to simplify life by saying, okay, well, I'm going to prioritize this thing that slows everything down and brings us together. You know, I've talked about this being a reason why it's good to smoke cigars before. You know, like, and for those who haven't listened to anything I've said in the past about tobacco, cigarettes and vapes, no. But you take something like a cigar, which is all natural, and nicotine's good for you, but I'm going to save that topic for another time. But you're also forcing yourself to sit in a chair and do kind of nothing for 45 minutes to an hour.
I will argue you can smoke a cigar while playing golf.
You can.
Although you
But
and
even
I tried
that
that once, it was too windy to get him lit.
Yeah, it was too windy. Even if it's that, though, it still is an activity. It still is an opportunity for contemplation. I can't, in the midst of that, go and do 5 different activities just sequentially in order. Same if I'm smoking a pipe. Like, I need to take my time to
I was
enjoy
just
this
going to do
thing.
that until you finally mentioned the pipe, which is superior to the cigar, and we will have that debate one day.
Oh, that's not a debate. If there is a form of smoking that is ontologically the highest, it is the pipe. I just hate keeping them lit. Cigars are extraordinarily easy.
Just relight it. It's not hard.
I don't want to relight it.
Fair enough.
No, I should get better at that. I have a pipe. I have a couple good blends of pipe tobacco that I need to smoke. So I'll briefly go into some stats / historical trends on it, despite saying I wasn't going to do that. I assumed that family dinners used to be more of a thing for people. I know that it took a bit of a downturn in like the 70s to 90s, and I'm not entirely sure why. I know COVID brought it back because, well, it's one of the things you'll do when you can't really go anywhere. So,
If I had to hazard a guess, I would say that the 70s to the 90s, there was probably a uptick in soccer mom culture.
You think so?
I think so. And there was probably a lot more, because if you compare the 50s and 60s to the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, the general pace of life increases dramatically. I mean, particularly for, let's just say, suburbia. So you have more schools start popping up, so you've got more kids in school. More athletic programs are happening.
Okay.
More kids are getting involved in athletic programs. And athletic programs start being more and more the focus of the school. That by the time you get to like the 90s, the stereotype of normal is a mom driving a minivan full of kids coming home from soccer practice.
That's true. When you think back to the 50s, you don't really think of that as a stereotype.
Yeah, it's like if you think about it in the 50s, granted nobody played soccer in the 50s because we knew what real sports were. When you look back at the 50s, most of the time, your football practice was right after school, and then you go home after football practice, and you have dinner when you get home after football practice. But then you have, that was at a time when it was actually encouraged that people not overstretch themselves, stretch themselves too thin over too many different hobbies, because not only do we insist that your kids got to play soccer because it's great for team building and it's great for their health and it's great for this and that, but your kid also has to learn an instrument, or your kid has to do this or has to do this. And every day the kid is being carted around to like 2 different places at least.
Mm-hmm.
Now your soccer practice is probably almost every day. Your piano lessons are once a week. The same kid has 8 or 10 different things that he's doing throughout the week. And then you get multiple kids doing multiple things. You got karate, you got, soccer, you got basketball, you got tennis, you got karate, you got taekwondo, you've got piano, you've got guitar, you've got this and that and the other thing. And it's just a mess. Everybody wants their kid to be good at everything. And how many of these things is the kid still going to be interested in when he's 20? Probably none of them.
So the broaden, I assume from that, its opportunities are broadened.
And this lowers it lowers the amount of time, to bring it back to the actual context of this video, of this episode. It lowers the amount of time available for a dinner. Yeah. That's at least what I remember was one of the big things when I was a kid. That was one of the big reasons given for why people don't sit around the dinner table. Because like the 70s through the 90s, also in the 70s is when we had an uptick in fast food. So I'm not really sure which came first, whether it was the uptick in just how many different programs the kids had to be involved in, and then fast food joints just sort of appearing all over the place. I don't know which one of those happened, but they definitely had an effect on each other. Whether it was the fast food joints start appearing so you can just sort of show up and grab your food and go. And then that means, we can just show up and grab our food and go, which means that we can do more stuff. Or people start doing more stuff and the fast food joints start showing up. And their advertising basically being, look, you're really busy, just grab your food and go. And those two things just sort of feed each other from the 70s to the 90s.
Yeah, like you can get takeout and eat it as a family, but the impetus is not the same.
Yeah, the fast food of the 50s and 60s was just Chinese takeout.
But my point is, the impetus is not the same to take that home and share that as a meal with your family in the same way as it would be your mom cooking a meal.
Yeah, because the reason you order takeout is you open the refrigerator and you go, there's nothing left. The reason that you order fast food is, I don't want to go home to have a meal.
Mm-hmm.
Or I got to get my kid to soccer practice. We don't have time to go home and eat.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest reason for fast food. And I'm not knocking fast food in general. Culver's is fantastic. One of my favorite places.
True. Culver's is amazing.
But on the the spectrum of speed and quality, they definitely lean more to the quality side. Because Taco Bell will have your food ready in about 45 seconds.
Yeah, but nobody looks at that.
But we all know what position you're in if you're eating at Taco Bell.
I'm doing it.
So
yeah, everything becomes more informal. Everything becomes more decentralized, and not in a good way. Everything becomes more about appealing to my tastes, and my tastes are going to be dictated in the moment by what lets me do all of the things that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the family dinner becomes an inconvenience.
And for some reason, the necessary thing, one of the most important things, becomes the thing that we can shove off to the side. That becomes the etc. that we can get rid of.
Yep.
Because we have decided that, because I'm planning for my kid's future, I want my kid to be successful. All of these things that he's doing that I'm forcing on him when he's 12 are going to help him when he's 32. He's learning skills and disciplines and this and that and the other. But he doesn't know his parents.
Yeah.
His mom is Chauffer, and his dad is a Paycheck.
As opposed to being your father and your mother and your primary educators.
Yeah. And as primary educators, they wind up teaching the kid that family time doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Because you constantly have to just be doing stuff. Which really you're just constantly doing stuff to distract yourself from the fact that your life is empty. And usually is empty in such a way that it can only be filled with your family. and with prayer and sacrifice, but we threw that out the window in the 60s. So,
We did a great job, didn't we?
yeah, we did.
Yeah, so we hollow out the spiritual core of society. And yeah, it just makes sense that the institutions of family life, and I think it makes sense to call the family dinner an institution of family life. The institutions of family life that built that up just begin to fall one by one. So, and we wonder why we're all so much more together and yet so much more alone at the same time now.
Yeah, you can
Like, how
be
often
together
are-
with people from all around the world, and yet you're still entirely by yourself.
You know, go sit in a room with a bunch of strangers, and what are you going to do? You're not going to talk with them. You're going to pull out your phone and look at something. Who knows what that is? You got a lot of options at your fingertips, but it's going to be something. It ain't going to be with the people around you who you could be having an impact on and who you could be socializing with. Which ties into one of the benefits, and I'll cover this more again later, but, you know, the family dinner does teach you how to socialize. Obviously, it's not the only thing, but
Yeah.
there are actually some stats that back that up, too. Family dinners are correlated with that. So,
Well, and I'll use this to sort of interject the point that, actually a point that my dad made when he would get the "your kid is not socialized" argument for homeschooling, or against homeschooling, is that, for one thing, homeschooling families tending to be larger. So you have more children, and they're in more age groups. And there being homeschooling events with other homeschool families, and the fact that you are always around your own family. The difference sort of being that the kid that spends 8 hours a day in a classroom around people who are around other kids his age and a teacher, or, you know, a number of teachers, only knows how to talk to authority figures and peers. Immediate peers. Whereas the kid that grows up actually constantly with his family, with his parents, with his siblings, sometimes with his grandparents around, going out, being around other kids, other families, that means you can talk to the authority figure, being your parents, but you just know how to talk to adults in general, and you know how to talk to those older than you and to those younger than you. I also sort of blame that mindset for a spike in overall hatred of children, because people hate their little brothers because they're annoying and they get in the way, and I want to be with people like me. When no, you should actually be spending more time with your little brother.
yeah, those are great points.
So, but because they're constantly separated, a lot of that has to do with the fact that you're constantly separated from kids who are younger than you, and you don't know how to deal with them. Which is actually why the family dinner, for those that have kids in school, because not all hope is lost, is a good thing for them. Because then that gets the entire family around the table. And they can actually learn how to talk to each other.
To bounce off of your point, too, you know, about how families teach one way of socializing, you know, between the people younger than you, older than you. It's your father and your mother instead of two authority figures, or however many authority figures. Yeah, it also just teaches you to see people as your brothers and sisters, and your fathers and mothers, as opposed to your supervisors and your fellow employees.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know. In my brain, there's that parallel there. Not just because I know that the school system was designed in Prussia to create good factory workers, but it makes sense. You know, who is your teacher to you? This person that assigns you work. You know, why does the work matter? Well, you can make good arguments for why it matters. Obviously, school matters, people. But if it's just top down and your parents are just telling you do it because you have to do it, and yeah, you're only with your peers and you're not with a broader cross section of society. you're going to go in the workforce and you're going to see a parallel of that there.
Yeah.
Here's my group. We've got our leader we got to listen to, but here's my group, and we're all kind of together. The family version of that, the family dinner version of that, is much better. And that ties into what I would say is one of the biggest pros to why you should care about doing a family dinner. And it's what I've said already. It's the unit of power of the family dinner.
Right.
So, I mean, just think about... So, I like using edgy examples and edgy stats sometimes to back up my point and make an example of what I'm saying. So, here's one. 85% or 80% of teenagers, according to this one study, said that the time that they were most likely to talk to their parents was the family dinner, which is depressing for a number of reasons.
Yeah. Notice it. Granted, it didn't say that the only time they spoke to their parents was the family dinner.
Yeah,
But it also didn't say that they absolutely spoke to their parents at the family dinner.
True.
It said
was
that's
just
the
a
time they
when-
were most likely. That doesn't guarantee that they're going to actually say anything.
Yeah. They might still just be on their phone the whole time. Go watch our previous videos on teenagers.
Yeah.
But even that serves as an example of like, okay, this is the one time, to my point earlier, like where we can actually get everybody together in the same room and do something, you know? And I can
Yes.
say that because the broader society at large isn't going to be religious, although obviously you should all be Catholic. So you should all have a family time of prayer together every day if you can. But since I know that you all are not going to, the best thing I can recommend is the family dinner.
I was actually given the advice recently by my spiritual director that when he was a kid, his family rosary was said around the dinner table immediately after dinner.
That'd be pretty sick.
And he told me that, and I went, I think we're going to do that. Because, you know, when you're at the table, the whole family's sitting around the table, in theory at least, every kid had his own place. And you're already at the dinner table and you've been at the dinner table. Granted, with the younger kids, if they've been at the table, they're going to be like racehorses. They're going to be like, I'm waiting for dinner to be over so I can bolt from my chair and go play. Because that's what very, very little children are like. And, you know, the family rosary, that's what 3 and 4 year olds do during the family rosary. That's our thing with our daughter is just like, you can play, but just play quietly. And pray with us as much as you are able.
Yeah. But that ties into like, yeah, it is an inconvenience, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
And historically, it was always an inconvenience. It was just more of a necessity. It was an accepted thing. And you had fewer things to go do, so, you know, more of a reason to not complain as much and be at the dinner table.
Well, because
historically, few other options to actually get dinner.
There was still a lot of, you know, even in that time when the family dinner starts disappearing, there was still a lot of the kid looking at the clock and going, oh crap, I got to get home for dinner. Like you have, when my dad was growing up, my grandmother's rule was, you can go wherever you want, as long as you can hear me call for dinner and be home within 5 minutes. My dad always says after that, and my mom could yell, and we were all really fast. That's also why we kind of have an idea at some point to have a dinner bell put in. That if our kids go out and are going to play, then have a dinner bell somewhere in our yard. That when my wife has the dinner ready, we'll just go out in the front yard and clang the dinner bell a few times. And then go, you got to be home within 10 minutes of hearing that bell. And if you're not, your dad's going to come looking for you.
Then he don't want to look for you.
And you don't want dad to look for you.
No.
No. So.
More people should do it.
Yeah.
More people should do it.
And that's a lot of families have done that in history. There used to be a triangle hanging on the wall by the back door.
Yep.
My mom used to step out on the back door, clang on that triangle, so she didn't have to yell.
Mm-hmm. And to my point, like, was it still an inconvenience for everybody? Absolutely.
Yeah, because the kids have to
No
stop playing.
no one's going to deny that. Just because we've given ourselves more options to distract ourselves from that, and degrade the institution of the family dinner as a result, doesn't mean that we have excuses to not do it. If anything, you could reframe it this way. It gives us an opportunity to make something even better in its place, because we can go back to the family dinner, but now it's based even more in intentionality than it was to begin with.
Yeah, rather than, well, we
get-
just sort of all do this thing and we're not really sure why. Now we can actually look back and go, we know exactly why we do this.
Yep.
And that's why we're going to do it.
Yeah, like that's the best culture maker in terms of a motive and intent and the habit that is formed that builds that culture. That's the best way to do it.
Now, there is something to be said for, well, this is always the way that we've done it, but also knowing why it's always the way that you've done it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, you shouldn't just be approaching something with a purely analytical, like, we will do this in this way because of this reason, and then it will have this result. Like, life is not intended to be a science experiment or a science project. So you can't just pursue everything with, oh, I will do this thing and expect this result. You can't do that. But yeah, so basically the restoration of the family dinner has to be the cross-section between those two. Now, there was the element of necessity that was mentioned when COVID happened. So people were home, couldn't go out, and even if nobody was really cooking, DoorDash made a hell of a lot of money during COVID.
Yep.
As did Instacart and Blue Apron and all those services.
Yep.
They made a hell of a lot of money during COVID. So that actually, the result of COVID just made the family dinner that much easier to do.
Yeah, hence why it made a comeback. So.
And then people went, huh, this is nice. You should just keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then people formed that habit for that time that they were there. And habits are hard to break. Even though good habits are much easier to break than bad habits, but
Yeah, seems that way.
it's almost like we have concupiscence or something. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
Here's another way to frame it up too. Like, another reason to do family dinners, another way in which they're unitive. If I'm a father, I need to teach my children what being a father means. I need to show that to them. If I'm a mother, I need to teach my children what being a mother means. I need to show that to them. If I'm a brother, I need to learn what being a brother means. If I'm a sister, I need to learn what being a sister means, and I need to practice that. Same with the brother. For all of the reasons that I said before in terms of what everybody has going on in their life, where are you all going to get to practice that together? Where are you all going to learn what it means to be the best version of yourself?
Yeah.
The family dinner is a great place. And you can broaden it out from there too. It doesn't have to just be your family, obviously, right? You don't have to just use it as a way to learn how to interact with your family and, how to be a better father and brother and sister. You can invite your parish priest over. You can invite your teacher over. You can invite a family friend, uncles, whatever, over.
Invite
Grandparents,
friends over.
the whole.
And
Yeah.
the family dinner is so central, even still now after it has kind of fallen a little bit by the wayside, even though it's been brought back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think subconsciously there is an instinctive knowledge of the importance of the family dinner that is so deep that when a guy's dating a girl and it's time to meet the parents, what is like the second most common thing to do, if not the most common thing? Bring her over for dinner.
That might be.
Same thing. That's when a guy meets his girlfriend's parents for the first time. In a lot of cases, she has him over for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a family dinner around the table because there's still this understanding that, okay, you're dating my daughter, you're dating my son, you could be a part of this family. So we'll still put our best foot forward because that's what you do when you meet people. Although there's an argument against that because then that potentially raises expectations that won't be met later on. But you still do your best to make a good impression.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to know what you're getting into. Like you do only marry the person, you don't marry the entire family. Contrary to what you may hear.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to deal with the whole rest of the family. Barring any need for restraining orders.
And how am I going to learn to do that? How am I going to learn to be around them? I'm going to sit them all at a table in front of a good meal, and we're all going to chat. Playing games together, it's not the same. You know,
Yeah,
I'll probably play games with the siblings, and the mom will go do the dishes, and it's not the same.
Because there's still it's a diversion of focus.
Yep.
When you're playing games, everybody's focus. Now, you get to know how people are when they play games, but everybody's focus is still on the game, and everybody's focused on how that is. At the dinner table, kind of anything can happen. Like the first time my dad brought my mom home to meet his parents. A food fight broke out.
Oh, fun. Well, you can't just leave it there, all right?
So
I need to hear the story now.
It's the first time that my dad brings my mom home. My grandmother insists that she doesn't remember this. Well, this story she does. There's something else that she doesn't remember. But he brings my mom home, and they're all sitting around the table, and they're all eating, having a lovely dinner. Then my grandmother asks my uncle to pass her a roll. Or no, I think my younger uncle asked the older uncle to pass him a roll. So he did. Somebody asked somebody to pass a roll, and it went flying across the table and hit the asker in the face. So then another roll went flying back across the table. And then somebody got caught in the crossfire or something else. And, for a couple of minutes, stuff is just like flying, tossing back and forth. And then my uncle picks up a big spoonful of cream corn and starts to haul back. And my grandmother goes, "Nope, that's it." That's it. We draw the line at cream corn flying through the air.
Rolls are fine.
And my mom still married my dad.
Yep.
And this all happened in front of her, who was an only child. And, she's very much, I don't want to... she had even told my dad in the car before they went inside, I want to make sure I make a good... I want to make sure I don't do anything wrong. And my dad's like, "Trust me, you have nothing to worry about."
There's something so poetically beautiful about that happening after she said that.
Yeah, and then a food fight breaks out while they're at dinner, and she's like, "Well, I guess I don't have anything to worry about."
No.
That's also the same day that my grandmother, after dinner, pulled my dad aside and said, "I don't know how you landed a girl like that, but don't screw this up."
Yeah.
And that's the thing my grandmother insists she doesn't remember saying. But my dad's like, "I remember."
Mm-hmm. As he would.
And there was a Nigerian priest friend of ours that my dad told that, and that then became one of his catchphrases. Just, "Don't screw it up." In his Nigerian accent. "Don't screw it up." Fantastic.
All born from a family dinner, folks. So. And there's no good way to follow up on that. I don't have any stories that I can share in this regard.
Yeah.
There's been some fun family dinners I've attended, but nothing rings a bell like that. So,
well, there is, not because I want to bring anybody down, but because we do try to talk about as much as we can related to the topic that we're able to. When one does a family dinner, when a family does the family dinner, there still does have to, it still does have to be done, right? Because the whole point is that the family is together and you're getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes at the family dinner, they can get awkward. Especially if you have a family that has everybody's separated and doing stuff for the whole day, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And this can even happen in homeschool families. You know, everybody goes off to their own room to do their own thing, and then they all come back together, but they don't really spend time together outside of the family dinner for the rest of the day. That's actually why it's important to foster. The family dinner is probably the biggest thing, but you should also be fostering time outside of the family dinner to spend time together and to do things together.
Yeah.
And why a father needs to not do everything he can to be authoritative, but not intimidating. Like, he shouldn't just be this looming figure standing above his children, waiting to bring a hammer down in case somebody does something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how a father should be, because then the kid has no idea how to talk to his dad. And, you know, sometimes a kid might be sitting at the dinner table, and particularly with boys, like, if your family is mostly boys, good luck having an actual dinner table conversation. You know, with girls, you ask your daughter how school today was, and she will tell you that she has a new teacher, that the new teacher has 3 cats, and she knows all of their names, what the teacher's favorite color is, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and she'll go on for 20 minutes. But then you ask the son the same question, how was school today? And he goes, it was good. And they were in the same class. So, I don't know. There does have to actually be effort put forward to it. And I think part of a symptom of this is that we've just lost the idea of conversation in general.
Yeah, we have.
Because both, like, the stereotype of what the girl does and the stereotype of what the boy does at the family dinner have to do with the fact that neither of them know how to talk to people. Really. Because the girl is just blathering on endlessly, which girls will do. And the boy has just completely shut himself up and doesn't really want to say anything. Probably because his mind is a complete blank. Which boys will do. And, you know, this also kind of depends on the age of a child, because 6 and under, children in general just sort of wake up and then start making noise and then don't stop making noise until they go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, they might still be making noise in their sleep. So,
but the long and short of it is, yeah, it needs to be done right?
It does need to be done right, and it does need to be done with an effort for conversation.
Yes. Yeah, to your point, we can imagine a family dinner that's done badly because you just reduce each of the participants to their worst selves. The boy that shuts up because his mind is a blank, the girl that will not stop talking, the wife that will just be gossiping to whatever, and the man who might be reading the paper and eating his biscuits at the same time.
Or there being a conversation going on between mom and dad, and the kids aren't involved in it, and they're just sort of sitting there listening.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, it's meant to be a family dinner, not a date night where the kids just happen to be stuck with the parents.
Yeah. And small talk is not conversation. We should be good at small talk, and I mean like actual small talk.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of stuff gets called small talk that isn't really, but your conversation with your kids should be more than just, how was school today? I remember 9 times out of my 10 when my dad spoke to me at the dinner table, it was, what did you do in math today? Because my dad's an engineer. That's what he's really interested in.
Yeah.
But I was not really wired for math, and I didn't really care about math, although I was pretty good at it. So I just sort of did it and then pushed it out of my mind. So by the time my dad asked me about it at the dinner table, I was like, I don't remember.
Then you might sit there and think, okay, so that's just going to be a disconnect between me and my kids, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, no, you can actually work on that.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of have to. Maybe it starts with small talk. Maybe it's, how was school today? Okay, oh, I learned this, and let's just say it's a thing I'm not interested in, like geography, or geometry. Sorry, and it's like, oh, well, okay, well, why is that? Like, just start asking them questions. Try and learn for yourself. As one tactic out of 1,000, and you can probably, I bet you can draw that into some deeper point without too much effort.
Yeah.
You just have to choose to have a conversation about things.
Small talk is there to start a conversation. It is not the whole conversation.
Yep. And this is one of the ways in which parents can be the primary educators of their children.
And
it's like,
even if it's like the typical talk about the weather small talk. I thought I smelled some rain on the wind today. I hope we don't get it, though, because, there's that football game tonight, and don't want that field to be too slick. And, hey, Johnny, how's your football practice going? What do you think about, the field being slick? And then you can lead into talking about football, or, like, and your kid that plays football, maybe that's, like, he can throw in his 2 cents about it's hard to tackling is hard when it's slick. It's hard to throw the ball when it's slick. It's hard to catch the ball when it's slick. It's hard to run when it's slick, even though you're wearing cleats. Like, rain can just completely mess up a football game.
Yeah, and then remember that one pro level game that we watched, Dad? Like, those guys were insane. I wonder how they did
a really
that.
Good job. I wonder how they did that. And then maybe we can go like, oh, well, here's some, like, how do you think we can maybe mitigate the problems of the rain on the football field? And then you're having a technical conversation, which is good, because that conversation, their kid's coach will actually be happy you had that conversation, because then that conversation you had will then wind up helping that kid on the football field.
In part because he thought about all these things during a family dinner, and also in part because he just did the act of thinking. He went through the process of thinking about this.
Yeah.
All that'll translate later in life. Scenario 1076 out of infinity that could manifest at your family dinner table. So.
And, it also bears mentioning that your family dinners should be as frequent as possible. So, one of the big movie releases this year was the Fantastic Four: First Steps. I didn't go see it. I didn't really care, but I did watch the trailer for it. And I remember Mr. Fantastic saying, "We always have dinner together every Sunday night at 5:30 on the dot." I was like, wow. Can't... Like, look at what a great family we are, because we have Sunday dinner together at 5:30 on the dot. I mean, that's...
Yeah, like, my reaction to that is...
First Steps is a good movie title. So, like, the first step, maybe, toward having a great family life. They're like, no, you should be having family dinner together every night.
Yeah, my reaction is, great first step. Cool. Yep. Like, the institution you've established is cool. I want more.
Now expand that. And, for families with kids, even though it seems like your morning has to be rushed, if you go to bed a little bit earlier, you can get up a little bit earlier and take your time. And everybody can also have breakfast together. And then your breakfast can be a short family meal.
Yep.
You can sit around the breakfast table. Talk about what everybody's plans are for the day. Now, I know this is not going to work in every circumstance, because some guys have to get up at 4:30 in the morning to go to work. And they're out the door by 5, and the kids don't get up till like 7 o'clock to be able to get to school at 8. And children need their sleep. Cannot stress that enough. Children need their sleep. But there are still ways to have as many meals together as possible. On the weekends, maybe have lunch together. And how about on Sundays? Have every meal together on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like every now and again, everybody have lunch together on Saturday. Or, whole family have breakfast together on Saturday while you're watching Saturday morning cartoons all together. Which, fortunately, we live in a time now where you can personally curate Saturday morning cartoons, so your kids are watching exactly what you want them to see. But everybody eat breakfast together on Saturday mornings. You should be having every meal together on a Sunday, to be honest.
Just make it a day for family. Make it a day for rest. That's what it was designed to be.
That's why we have Sunday. It was a day for family. It always was. That was why businesses were closed on Sunday. Because there is an old tradition that you get up on Sunday morning, you go to church, and then the rest of the day, you rest. That's why it's called the rest of the day.
I like that.
In the South, you sit on your front porch and you just watch the world go by. Maybe in your rocking chair. Maybe you're playing some music. Maybe you're reading a book.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're just going to sit there and you're going to watch your kids play on the front yard, and maybe you're going to get up and go join them.
Yep.
And then because you're 3 times the oldest kid's age, you'll throw your back out and then go back to your chair and read your book.
But it's so simple. It's so beautiful. It's so peaceful. I imagine it's not always peaceful in the moment. Can't expect that. But
It's always peaceful. It's not always quiet. There's a difference between peace and quiet.
Yeah, and peace is what matters, not quiet. So
yeah. Like a noisy and bustling city can still be peaceful, and a noisy and bustling house can still be peaceful. Bath night in my house, where I have naked savages running around everywhere, is still peaceful. I've resigned myself. That's what bath night is just gonna be in my house at some point when my children are all under the age of 6. It's just like, oh great, you're all just gonna be naked running around everywhere. That's
great.
wonderful. When you have bath night and only one bathtub, great.
It's still,
but it's still peaceful.
Yeah, it's still beautiful.
Even a family dinner where you brought your girlfriend to meet your family for the first time and your brother decided to start a food fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's still peaceful.
It's still peaceful.
And it's beautiful.
And those two words always coexist with each other.
Because it is normal. Because it is ordinary.
Doesn't need to be sterile, doesn't need to be contrived, and doesn't need to be just, well, this is the best we could do. So we all did our own thing, and just, whoever happens to be here can meet your girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can be intentional about this.
Also, since we're on the topic of family dinner, I'll interject just briefly. Since we're on the topic of family dinner, the placement of the family around the table does still matter. Particularly the placement of the parents.
Okay.
The father should always have head of the table because that is his position in the home.
Mm-hmm.
Mother should sit to his right because that is the place for the queen. The king sits at the head and the queen sits to his right. I don't know when this started, or how, or by whom, but there is this idea, and nobody that I know actually practices this. Like, everybody is sensible, and all the married guys I know are like, well, duh, yeah, of course I'm going to sit next to my wife. Somehow there got started this idea that, the dad sits at the head of the table and mom sits at the complete opposite end of the table. Well, that's cold and informal and distant. and too formal and too distant. Dad here, mom here, kid here, kid here. Now, I understand wanting to look across the table at who you're talking to, but at family dinner, I want to be able to reach out and take my wife's hand or reach up and stroke her cheek. I want to be able to make a public display of affection to my wife in front of my children because they need to see that.
Yeah, they do.
They need to see that daddy loves mommy very much.
And they can't do that if it's a family council and the
Yes.
kids are just, there watching.
And the youngest children should always sit immediately next to the parents. As a matter of practical advice.
Yeah, it sounds reasonable.
Now, if mom has to have the baby on her knee, or dad has to have the baby on his knee, that's one thing. But, like, the high chairs should be within reach of mom and dad.
Yeah.
Like, right here.
So I'm the perfect test case for probably many people watching this because my family growing up did the dad and mom across from each other thing. And who knows why? Who knows why they did that?
Who knows why? Some people do
But-
it. I'm not saying that it's bad that you did if you did do it because that's just how people did it.
Yeah. So what you're representing is what should be done instead. Makes sense. But even for me, like it requires a mental shift because of what I observed growing up.
Right.
And that would be true for anybody. But yeah, if I could choose, if I'm choosing for the sake of familiarity, I'm gonna choose what I've observed. If I'm choosing for the sake of warmth, I guess, as opposed to what you described as cold,
Yeah.
as well as a beautiful representation of the family structure, I'm gonna pick your option.
Yeah. And the reason that I say that the younger children should be closer to the parents is because, the way that our dinner table was set up in my house was that my dad sat at one end of the table.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first we had a round dinner table, and then it was just like a perfect circle. And then we would have people over, put the leaf in it, and then take the leaf out, and then put the leaf back in and take it out. And my dad finally got tired of doing that and said, okay, just leave the leaf in. But, so it was my dad there, my mom there, and my brother there, and me here. So I was across the table from my dad. And when I was really young, I was in reach of my mom, but when I was really young and really small and you're sitting across the table from your dad, especially a longer table, that just makes your dad seem so much bigger and so much more imposing and a lot scarier. So the times when he maybe barks at you a little bit to chew with your mouth closed, don't talk with your mouth full, which is technically the same rule, or not to scrape your plate with your fork, or whatever it is that he maybe has told you about, it just seems that much more intimidating because he is so big and imposing right there. But when the child is right next to you, also dad should be speaking gently to you. Unless the kid is far away, then you have to yell. But, when you're sitting basically right next to dad, within dad's reach, somehow in him being closer, even though when your dad is closer, you're more aware of the size difference, you still can feel his warmth.
He's just that much more present.
And he's within the reach in case he has to smack you upside the head.
There are these practical benefits.
But that is one of the reasons that I want my kids to be, the younger kids in particular, to be either near me or near my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Because then, when they're particularly young, then they can feel our warmth. And then that way, when I say, hey, don't chew with your mouth, don't chew with your mouth open, don't talk with your mouth full.
Mm-hmm.
Stop doing that. Even if I use a sterner tone, I am right here, and it's more personal than I am over here pointing down at you from practically across the room. Which not a lot of people think about, but you do have to think about these things. That is why there has to be a closeness of the family. There has to be a closeness of parents to their children. And that helps the discipline stick more than just the method of discipline itself.
And on the flip side of the discipline, it helps the love stick too. Like you said,
Yeah.
you know, with your kids, they can feel your warmth, either physically or emotionally. Like they're just that much more present to you. So I want to chat a bit about some of the spiritual benefits of this, which, I mean, you can infer a number of them based off of things that we've talked about. But if I think about the best family to have ever existed, the Holy Family. We know a lot of the things that they did from Scripture, obviously. We know that Christ helped his father, St. Joseph, in the workshop. We know he helped him a lot. We know that the family was in Egypt for a while. We know where our Lord was born. We know about the times in the temple and different things. One of the things we're never told about is their family dinners. And I imagine, or it's pretty cool to imagine how awesome those dinners would have been.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, there are a lot of ways in which Mary and St. Joseph taught our Lord how to be a man. But I imagine one of the great ways was the family dinner.
Well, and the Scripture in general, in the Old Testament and in the New, gives basically the most basic fundamental outline for the family dinner in the Passover feast in the old tradition, in the old covenant, which is effectively what what God is telling them to do. Basically, like, hey, I'm gonna kill a whole bunch of people tonight, so stay home and have family dinner.
Yeah, why is dinner a part of that? Like this is the thing that prefigures the sacrifice of the Mass.
Well, from a practical standpoint, they were told to eat with their loins girt because as soon as they were done eating, they were supposed to go. And you eat, and then you have energy for the very long trip.
Well, true.
From a practical standpoint. But there are probably other more eschatological reasons for that. Not the least of which being the prefigurement of the Blessed Sacrament and the sacrifice of the New Covenant, which takes place on the altar of every Catholic church during Mass.
Yeah. I want to come back to that, but to just quickly return to my other point and then go to yours. Like, the other thing we're not told about Christ's life is a lot of the dinners he had with his apostles. We know about some of them, you know, like when he rises from the dead and then appears to Peter on the shore, says, cast your net in the sea. They get fish. Peter swims to shore, and then guess what? They're going to have dinner together.
Yeah, our Lord is barbecuing on the shore and waiting for them.
Yeah, pretty awesome. We know about the wedding feast of Cana. Like, there's so many things in Scripture that are represented by meals. Like, this takes place in the context of a meal. Why? Because it's fitting that it takes place in the context of a meal. And I imagine that one of the ways in which he drew closest to his apostles was not just in the miracles and in his teachings that we know of in Scripture, but in all the dinners they would have shared together.
Yeah.
And that still
Even
counts
just
as a
around
family
an
dinner,
open fire. Yeah.
speaking. And so it is fitting that if I go back to the Old Testament, a dinner is so central to spirituality that a dinner would be a key component of the Passover. And then if I fast forward to the New Testament, that a dinner would be a key component in the thing that the Passover prefigured, which is the Last Supper, which is the establishment of the Eucharist and the Mass. And by the way, for any Catholics watching, no, that does not mean the Mass is primarily a meal.
No.
It is primarily a sacrifice. But we can say that one of the key elements of that sacrifice is the meal, which is interesting. Yeah. Like, why is it so important that that be a part of it? In all of these different ways that I've said. And it's because it teaches us who we are. In the same way that I said about the family dinner and about, this being the way that I learned to socialize, this is the way that I learned to be a son, or I learned to be a father, or a mother, or a sister, brother, whatever. It's a way in which I engage in community, and I know I'm going to every single day that I do this. It's a way in which I am intentional with being present to you. Which, in other words, I'm trying to love you, right? And this all prefigures what we're going to do in heaven.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't know what heaven's going to be like. We know it's going to be the beatific vision. And those who have had visions of heaven will basically say, yeah, I don't have the words, and I'm not going to bother trying.
St. Hildegard had to create an entirely new language because German was not sufficient.
Yeah. And even her made-up language wasn't sufficient either.
Even the lingua ignota wasn't really sufficient.
Yes, we are nerds, people. But if you were going to put it in an image, it would be in the image of a meal. Of the wedding feast of the Lamb.
Yeah.
And wouldn't that be fitting? Yeah, like if a meal is so important to life, both in this world and in the next, then, I mean, I can do all of these other things that prefigure heaven. I can do all of these other things in life that build community. We've been given so many of them in life, which is awesome. But I kind of should do the meal.
Yeah.
And it should be a family meal.
And it should be the whole family as often as possible.
Yeah. Like, we don't want anybody not part of the family. We don't want anybody not there. We want to all be together. That's what it means to love each other.
And you should be able to feel somebody's absence.
Yeah.
It should hurt because it is ordinary and normal for the family to be together.
And what's funny is that in the ordinary is where the extraordinary is made. Yeah, that ordinary, extraordinary life.
It's something that we should all strive for.
We all should strive for, yep.
And, yeah, even... so anybody doesn't get a false idea, I paint a good picture, but I don't always live up to it. Actually, very infrequently don't live up to it. I'm just recently trying to get my family to actually eat around the dinner table again. Because sometimes when my wife and I are both just kind of done, the easy thing to do is just to flip the TV on and eat in front of it. But that is also usually like the last thing that you should do.
Yeah, thankfully TV dinners are becoming less of a thing.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah. And something I'd like to close with is something that I've on and off carried with me since I was a kid. So there was a restaurant chain. I don't know if you'd be familiar with them because I don't know how many of them you had in Minnesota, but we had one here in town called Fazoli's.
Yeah, never heard of them.
I don't know what their scope was. I think I saw one at one point. I think I saw one within the last 2 years while we were traveling somewhere. Like, wow, I thought they had gone out of business, but parking lot's full. All right, good for them.
Yeah, all right.
The logo was a giant tomato. And I think it was Italian. It was Italian style. Fast food-ish. Not really fast food, but kind of that, It was a sit-down place.
Okay.
One of the things that set them apart was that the way that they informed you that your order was ready was they gave you a little buzzer, what looked like a coaster, but it was a vibrator, and you put that on the table, and then when your order was ready, they'd press a button, and it would scare the crap out of you. Because you've just been sitting having a nice conversation across the table, and all of a sudden this thing has decided to make everything made of glass on the table come that close to shattering. Or you were like me when I was 8 years old and I was just holding it and looking at it and it went off while I was in my hand, and I think I threw the thing up and there was somebody across the room that was like, "Oh, I guess your order's ready, isn't it?"
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the breadsticks there being particularly good. Like, that was why I always wanted to go there, because they had really good breadsticks. But they had on either one of their to-go bags, or it was printed on their napkins, one of the rebrand image things that they had. They did that thing where there's like it's like that background design where there's just like phrases and words and things. You
Okay.
know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, kind of.
So some of them were just sort of faded into the background and others were highlighted. One of the highlighted ones that I remember is it's a minivan, not a mini dining room. So even though this place that
So
this
calling
is a
out soccer
restaurant.
moms.
Yeah. And I think one of their goals was also, I don't remember if they did drive through or not, but I'm pretty sure, I want to say that they didn't, because their entire business model was just to bring people in so they could be together. And it was actually really good food. I don't know why they shut down. There's a Raising Cane's there now. But
Yeah, not the same thing.
yeah, but it was a good place. It was warm and inviting inside. But that's kind of something that has stuck with me. And it was weird when we bought a minivan. That was one of the first things that entered into my head. It was like, this is a minivan, not a mini dining room. The dining room is where you eat and where you sit together and where you are, where you just be with your family. Not the minivan. If you're going to sit down and eat, do it in the dining room. Don't do it in the van between soccer practices. So, and that's kind of a short version of what I'd like to leave on today, at least on my end.
I don't have anything great to add. I mean, apart from, well, just echoing your story and I guess my own version, which is there's been plenty of times growing up. Like, I had a lot of family dinners growing up, as you'd expect in a homeschooling family of 5.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of times where I was out doing other things, and plenty of times where maybe it was some scouting night where my dad and I got McDonald's or something.
Sure.
Or we're out in a camp out, or, who knows what's going on, and so you're out with completely other people. But the most valuable meals to me growing up, out of any of those, even the camp out ones where you're with other great dads and, hopefully friends, depending on the day. I mean, the most valuable ones were the family dinners. And would I have said that years ago? I don't know. Probably not. I was a teenager once too.
Yeah.
But, and you don't want to be there necessarily, but that sense of community that was fostered there, the conversations that were had around it, whether they were charitable or not, were really, really valuable. Just the time together was really valuable. The whole thing was really valuable. And when I do get married one day and have kids, I want to do that. And I want more people to do more of that than they otherwise would. Maybe they do already. Great. Maybe you can do more. Maybe you're doing fine. I don't know. You can make that prudential call. Or maybe you don't do much and you could improve. All right. Maybe you're somewhere in the middle and there's all these temptations. There's all these reasons. There is the soccer practice and the band practice. And, okay, well, this kid's got their phone and they're a teenager and I don't want to go wrestle with them. And I'm stressed out and I just stop all of that. Sit down and have a meal together as a family.
Yeah.
You and even your teenagers will thank you later.
Sit down and have a meal. Turn everything off. Turn every device off. Sit down and have the meal as a family. And let there be nothing in the world that exists outside of that room.
So that's what charity is. That's what love is as a family. So stop listening to us. Go be with your family and
Go
have a
have
good
dinner
evening.
with your family.